Hi, wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are going to take a look at Transformers EarthSpark, a Stygi situation, episode somewhere between 17 and 19, depending on which Amazon subscription you are paying for. As usual, we will have a short, spoiler-free version to start off with, and then I will warn you before we get into spoiler action. Okay, first things first. No one comes to a Transformers cartoon for exact scientific accuracy. We wave the physics away with a free hand and agree to accept that 2-story-tall metal robots can in fact walk in Earth standard gravity without their knees instantly buckling. However, there is a bridge too far. Especially when you get a huge lump of accurate science with one glaring bone of nope, that ain't right shoved in it. And we get that in this episode. Overall, the episode was competent with the odd flash of near genius level writing that makes the overall mediocrity of the rest of the writing stand out more. There was something particularly off about the animation. The movements themselves were smooth, but models were repeated to a point where it became noticeable. And the big fight felt like it might have been done 20 years ago. Again, the emotion of the main characters was good, but the way the background buildings moved, and they were just so poor quality that it might have been a stylization choice. As in, I don't think with the existing resources they had, they could have been that bad without some deliberate effort, maybe creating a very specific effect. Now, about that final fight, and the opening scene, and the entire episode. Well, let's face it. This episode draws heavily, very, very heavily, on the image of one particular franchise, as did the episode Home. You will know it when you see it. So, that is the spoiler-free review. Exactly the sort of episode you would expect from a Transformers show. A touch of genius and a wash of mediocrity. Far better than the episode Home, not nearly as good as the episode Warzone. Now, let's jump reinforced skull plate into the spoiler section. But before we do that, if you don't want any spoilers, I will now give you a moment to click away by telling you to go get yourself a copy of my book, Flying Sparks, available for pre-order on my website, or Dying Embers, available on Amazon. Dragons, aliens, and things that go boom in the night, and I hope consistent science. Did you hear me roll my eyes? Did you? Well, if not, you might have heard the eyes of every paleontologist rolling till they sprained. This is a big spoiler, so I am giving you an extra warning. Jawbreaker has finally chosen his alt mode. He is the newest, the absolute cutest Dinobot. The show writers did a fantastic research job, and the animators did a wonderful job merging the saurian and mechanical components of a Dinobot. Little Jawbreaker does not look like a Maximal. He looks like a robot, like a G1 robot, but he is identifiably the dinosaur that he scanned. Specifically, he scanned the bones of a Stygi spinifer. According to the dinosaurs.org, the Stygi whose name translates to demon from the river Styx, carries an etymological reference to the river of Styx Greek mythology and a Canaanite god Moloch. This name reflects the dinosaur's distinct skull features, which include long horn-like projections and a thickened dome, belonging to the give me a second here. Pachycephalosauridae family. Stygi is part of the order Ornithischia. Its type species, Stygi spinifer, is unique in its family due to its particular skull characteristics. It is supposed to have traveled in herds, matching the family theme of the show. So far, so good. Now you ask me, Betty, you say, what is so eye-rolling about that? Lots of Transformers have scanned dinosaur skeletons in the past. Dinosaurs are cool. You have a stack of dinosaurs literally by your right hand in your office. Why, it's even more realistic since scientists have found evidence of soft tissue still in some dinosaur fossils. So, what's the problem? Welp, it's this way. Did our sweetheart Jawbreaker find this skeleton in the local Witwicky Museum? Nope. First, and most painful to any paleontologist, the entire skeleton is revealed, perfectly intact and upright, when someone blasts the wall of a quarry and all the rock around it just crumbles like soft chalk, leaving the exposed skeleton for Jawbreaker to scan. If only it were that easy. It took over 20 years to dig out the most recent T-Rex find with modern equipment. Dinosaur fossils are fragile, not nearly strong enough to withstand a blast that would disintegrate the rock around it like that. Then there was the skull. A character says flat out that this is an herbivore with a dome on its head. But the skull had very much predator teeth, no visible dome, and almost no spikes. And the dome, spikes, and lack of front teeth are visible and obvious markers of the Stygimoloch. So let me go a little deeper here. The Stygimoloch has a long, pointed snout, something like a horse, something like a traditional Western dragon. It's got two massive nostrils on the end of its nose, taking up the majority of the end of its nose. It's got two very large eye sockets, and the spikes, these spikes which got it its name, are run all the way down its skull with four major ones on the nose. And it has no teeth on the front side of its bottom jaw, a very common herbivore characteristic. Moreover, its primary horns come straight up off the back of its head, like the horns of a goat. And the bump is small compared to the width of the skull and centered in the skull. These are the markers of a Stygimoloch. But none of those are visible on the dino model. Now, okay, so they got the dino model wrong, you say, big deal. But they got these features correct on Jawbreaker's alt mode after he scanned it. The dome on his head, the spikes surrounding the dome, the most obviously iguana-like lower jaw beak, the herbivore mouth. They clearly know what a Stygimoloch skull looked like, and yet they put that Play-Doh set, absolutely generic meat-eating dinosaur, I never existed in nature, I'm a plastic toy, set into the wall of the quarry. Now, I would just like to write this off as a bad 3D model to save money. It was a very, very generic dinosaur skull. It might easily have been just something they literally had laying around in a backup file. They ran out of time, they had the rights to this thing, so they tossed it into the episode. However, the characters do note that trans-scanning, the taking of an alt mode, shouldn't have gone like that. Elito 1 was shocked, as was the main dino himself. The kids just brushed it off as Jawbreaker being really good at trans-scanning. But it's pretty clear that Jawbreaker's trans-scanning is special and is going to come up again. With that big of a lampshade placed directly on that dinosaur skull, that is definitely not a Stygimoloch dinosaur skull. There is a slim possibility that these details of the skull might be story relevant. I haven't seen the rest of the season yet. But probably they just ran out of money and had to use a cheap prop. But it might be a plot twist later. I hope so. That'd be more satisfying. And to top it all off with quite the cherry, Mom Malto, Dorothy Malto, has informed the character that there were Stygimolochs all over the area. And remember, they're in Witwicky, Pennsylvania. Nope, not a bit of it. The Stygimoloch has so far only been found on the other side of the continent. It is a dino of the wild Montana skies. And that makes it twice now that the supposed expert naturalist Dorothy Malto was wrong about some real-life natural science fact. She ID'd a mutant parrot as a trumpeter swan, and now she's finding dinosaurs 2,000 miles from where they should be. It's very curious, and it makes me wonder if they are deliberately establishing that this world is different from the real world in more than just the obvious ways for a Transformers show. Or if they just want to give reviewers like me something to really sink our teeth into and rant about. Then there is the bit of genius writing. Maybe not genius, but definitely gutsy on the part of the writer in a children's show. A beloved main character, and a character who is a sweetheart that we love, is allowed to have a very, very serious character flaw. A character flaw that actually hurts the people around him in a very big way. Jawbreaker is, in a word, pushy. He is so sweet, so loving, so benign, so caught up in his own delight with others that he can't imagine that his touching their wheels, continuing conversations, or literally jumping on them can be hurtful. Because his intentions are not malicious, he doesn't see how his actions can hurt people. And this flaw, a natural overflowing of his unregulated affection, mixed with his large size, does hurt the people around him in very real ways. Especially given by the end of the episode, he is showing some serious power there. Now, let's address the T-Rex in the room. There appears to be a new rule in cinema, or maybe not so new. It goes as far back as the 98 Godzilla movie. If you have anything resembling a T-Rex in your show, at least 5% of the scenes must be spent recreating iconic Jurassic Park scenes. Of course, we get the classic head lift and roar. We get a shaking jello type scene as the massive Dinobot approaches through the forest. And we get a whole battle sequence that is clearly a modified version of the Raptor T-Rex and Dominus Rex fight from Jurassic World. Rain and all. I'm not saying that this is inherently good or bad, mind. I just smiled and rolled my eyes a bit. It really gave the episode the feel of a cheerful and good-spirited toy commercial, which, I mean, after all, it is. This, what we see on the screen, it's how kids play with Transformers. When they're in their bedroom and they're chasing the bigger Transformer and littler Transformer around their imaginary setup. This was made all the stronger by how weirdly low quality the CGI backgrounds were. We were in the town of Witwicky, of course, and we have been there before, but the town of Witwicky in this show has never felt this much like a CGI model. I mean, the quality flirted with those Christmas town ambiance videos you can watch on YouTube for hours on end that just has Christmas music playing over a loop. Add that to the noticeably repeated 3D car models. There was this one blue sedan that kept showing up. I felt kind of attached to it by the end of the show. The repeated comic books that show up. When the comic books are such a large part of the show's background, only having 3 or 4 and having to repeat them is kind of weird. And the fact that all the bystanders mysteriously disappear as soon as the fight starts, and it really does look like this episode got the short end of the budget stick. Or maybe all of the budget went into the dino fight. Then there's the usual odd stuff. 4 giant robots, including 2 dinosaurs, are tearing up the town where ghost agents get their snacks on a regular basis, and no one notices. This stands out way more than it did in Philly. In a city inhabited by multiple giant robots, a few more or less might not be noticed, but as they say, everyone dies famous in a small town. I genuinely don't know whether we're supposed to consider this as part of the plot moving forward. Is someone covering for them? Are they being deliberately ignored? Or is this just the bad writing? Given the overall quality of the show, I would be disappointed if it were just an oversight in the writing, because I think the writing is better than that overall, but the writing in the episode Home was so bad that I can kind of believe that this might be just the creators ignoring that problem. But what do you think, my wonderful viewers? What gives Jawbreaker the strange ability to scan dino bones? Is it a plot point or an oversight that no one showed up while a T-Rex and an inexplicable Stygimolech duked it out in a small town? Can an animator animate a T-Rex without recreating Jurassic Park scenes? Let me know in the comments below, and peace out, my wonderful viewers. Do you love awesome science fiction books? Of course you do. If you check out the links below the video, you can get yourself a copy of Comedy or Tragedy. Humans Are Weird. I have the data. Humans Are Weird. We took a vote, and Humans Are Weird. Let's Work It Out are the 3 comedy short story books available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo by Rakuten, Google Play. There's even some copies at Powell's Books, the famous used bookstore in Portland, Oregon. Dying Embers, dragons, aliens, and things that go boom in the night, and soon Flying Sparks. More dramatic, traditional science fiction novels are also available at Amazon. Flying Sparks is still on the pre-order page. If you want a copy, you can email me by contacting the website to pre-order yourself a copy. It's still being edited. So check out the links below the video to get yourself a copy of some wonderful science fiction.